Hey! I wrote a theme song. It's Backer Chat with Matt. Backer Chat with Matt. You're sitting where you sat. It's Backer Chat with Matt. Guitars, bazookies too. Whichever's right for you. We'll strum 'em up and play. We'll tune 'em up and strum. There's no question that's dumb in Backer Chat with Matt. Backer Chat with Matt. Backer Chat with Matt. You're sitting where you sat. Woo! Hey, thanks guys. This is my attempt. I'm doing it's supposed to be a question and answer format, and we're going to cover. We'll cover. I don't know what we'll cover. This is all an experiment. I haven't tried this before, but I thought it might cater to my strengths, which are not over planning things. Let us say. So anyway, thank you for coming. Thanks for coming, gang. And this is great. So there's a few questions in the chat already, and I will do my best to get to all of them. The first thing I want to talk about though is somebody had emailed me, and I thought this was kind of it's kind of a big question, kind of a broad question, but I thought it might sort of set the stage. The question was essentially, how do I get good at this fast? Right? Like I really want to jump into my local session and play. Like, how do I do it? And and that's kind of at the heart of it, right? I mean, what do you work on? How do you efficiently get better? And I thought about it, and I think I have an answer. I think there are 3 things that you need to work on. You need to work on, or 3 things we need to work on as backers. And I'm assuming most people play either guitar or bouzouki or one of the plucked strings. But if you the 3 things that I need to work on, there's the hands, there's the head, and there's the heart. Now, what I mean by that is, for the hands, a person needs to be able to physically play the instrument. A person needs to be able to switch chord to chord at will, and just have all of the chord shapes and the strumming and just all the technical details. And technical details are actually easy to learn, because it's just you find out like what is the good form, and then you repeat it a lot until you can do it easily. So there are loads of exercises and things. I might give one example in a moment, but then the head. When I say the head, I mean theory. I mean knowing a bit about how chords work together. Like, for example, if you know that the tune is in G major, it's nice to know what chords commonly show up in G major, right? So the head, and theory is kind of it's a little bit memorization. It's just you need to know sort of how scales work a little bit, so that you know how chords work a little bit, so that, and at the bare minimum, you need to just memorize like that these shapes work in this key. But then the heart is sort of the most fun and the most elusive thing, and that's just really knowing the music. And the best thing you can possibly do for that is listen to a lot of it, and putting, what I like to do is put on, if I get a new record, a new album, or it doesn't even have to be a new album. If I listen to it, I like to listen to albums all the way through, and I'll listen to the same album a bunch of times. Whenever, like when I'm driving, when I'm cooking, just whenever it's convenient to have music on. And I try to listen kind of actively. I try to really pay attention to, like, okay, this is the track that has that cool change from the first tune to the second tune, or whatever. Try to not let it just be kind of a general wash, but actually pay attention to what's going on. And when you do that, when you really focus on the tunes, if I listen to that album a bunch and then I sit down and decide to play along with that album, then I can sort of dig in and be like, oh, that's interesting. You know, that tune, that key relationship is not what I thought it was. Or, oh, that chord doesn't really, you know, go there. If it's an album with backing, then I can think like, oh man, that's a cool choice. That's a cool choice that person made. Or if it's an album without backing, I can try and do things my own way. So those are, you know, that's kind of at the heart of it. The hands, the head, and the heart. And I'm sure you could probably apply that to other aspects of music too. But the technical stuff, and then the theory stuff, and then just knowing the music. I can't stress enough that I mean, this music is great and it's nice to listen to, and listening is a good thing to do. So that's my overall here. So okay, now are we gonna go? Are we just gonna dive in and start doing some questions? Let's do it. Let's see. I'm scrolling. When to use triplet strumming, and what else can you use in a Mixolydian key? So triplet strumming, do you mean like an ornamental thing, like, you know, that kind of like a quick little snappy thing? I assume that that's what you mean, rather than like, you know, a jiggity strum. So I'll talk about the ornamental triplets here. I'm going to scroll down in case yeah, ornamental. Okay. To me they're a little okay, and obviously everything I say here is my opinion, and take it or leave it. Like some people might disagree with whatever I say, and some people might love it, but it's, you know, this is sort of how I think of it. The ornamental triplets are they kind of I tend to do more of them if it's a little faster and peppier. The pace of the tunes. Like I wouldn't if we're playing like a slow pretty thing, I wouldn't try to throw it in there. But if you're moving right along, you know, then I think it can be kind of nice. The way that I think they're best used a little sparingly, because they're a fairly, if you do it all the time, it takes the spice out of it in a way. The thing that I don't do, or at least not very often, like twice a year, is the sort of the roll thing, which would be like, if I'm playing, this is a reel, okay, right? Ducka, 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 ducka. And if you subdivide it into, and do like a, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ducka, 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 which is like a ding. That is a very, very big gesture, and that is a gesture I would only feel comfortable making if it were just a probably, you know, later in the evening, maybe perhaps some people have had a beer or two, perhaps it is very fast and very loud and everyone is just being very raucous. Then I might do it like once, and I would do it pushing the end of a part back into the A part, like, you know, just sit on the 5 chord and hit the downbeat of the next part. So, and I you know, they can be, I can see already that I'm gonna have a hard time keeping this to 1 hour, but essentially I want to keep, I would use them to add excitement to what might be an already kind of peppy, exciting tempo, you know? In jigs, they're easier in a way. Right, well, with a reel, what I do is diddly-dum, and I kind of skip the next beat. Diddly-dum, diddly-dum, dum, ducka, 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 ducka. So I'm ending that duppity-tum on an upstroke, and I just leave the next one out. Dum, 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 dum. Right? Because I found I wouldn't be able to get it back down there. So yeah, I hope that kind of, I'm gonna have to jump back and forth here. Okay, hope that answers that a little. Oh, and a jig, if you're doing down, up, down, down, up. Let me think about this. You can kind of, it can kind of come in on there. And it's because you're already doing that double downstroke. It's if you do 2 downs in a row, your hand has to come back up at some stage. And if when it comes up, it just happens to hit the string. Right, that doesn't interfere, it doesn't interrupt the rhythm that you've already got going or the pattern that you've already got going. So they're a little easier to do in a jig. The other thing about all of them is I would tend to limit the number of strings I'm doing them on. I wouldn't try to go through all 6 strings. By the way, if when I'm doing this stuff, like, let me know if it's like clipping or if I've got the microphone too loud or anything. I can imagine that could be kind of unpleasant if you're wearing headphones or something. All right, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to the question of, do I ever analyze the notation to decide on possible chords and substitutions, or have I played so long it's more intuitive? Great question. Sometimes. Shannon and I are in the process of putting together another book collection, and so I'm sort of forced to look at the notation for all the tunes. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it sends me into an existential quandary, because it might be a tune that I've been playing for years, and I've always played this chord in this particular spot. And then I look at the notes and I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all what I'm doing. Like, the notes clearly are spelling out this other chord and I'm playing this chord, but I like my chord. So what is it? What do I put down? Which is, one of the joys of not reading chords is your ear kind of decides what it might like to hear. This being said, with newer compositions, like Shannon writes a lot of tunes, and I sometimes do find it very helpful to like actually read what she wrote to figure out sort of what she was getting at, because she tends to have something in mind, and so it does make, I think it's a little, that it is helpful. Now, if I'm generally speaking, I'm not going to look for the notes. I'm not going out of my way for that unless it's something that's just really like weird, something new. Like I had to do some gigs with someone a couple summers ago, and there was this one tune that was like, what was the deal? It was like in 7/8 or something, and had just this weird chord progression. There was just something going on with it that was very, very specific, and I just wasn't quite like, I knew I wasn't getting it, and I'm like, do you have that thing written out? And so they gave me the notes, and then I was like, oh, I see, it's this. I of course don't remember the specific example of what I'm talking about, but it can help. So essentially if looking at the music helps clarify something, great. But for session playing especially, I think it's best to try not, right? Okay, we got a couple of questions about some Mixolydian things. So let me think about some Mixolydian tunes. And we gotta bounce around. Sorry. Scrolling over the melodom. All right, so Mixolydian. So Mixolydian. Kind of hoping that I can tie this into the Blarney Pilgrim discussion. So the Mixolydian scale is a major scale, oops, with a flat 7, right? And so that means you got a major 1 chord, but then that 7 means you have this, I call it a flat 7 chord. That's not really, you know, they're just for the sake of ease. Someone else might call it something else, but right. So it has that kind of modal sound, as we like to say, and you know, so there are a lot of tunes that, you know, that just, you know, the most obvious thing is rocking back and forth from the 1 to the 7, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to spice it up a little bit, the first thing to do is think about, like, the Mixolydian mode is, the two ways that you can look at these modes are either just the formula. You know what I did? I brought my whiteboard, so I'm going to try and use this now. The one thing I don't know, and we'll find out in a second, is will this be reversed on screen? So we'll find out. Flat 7 1. So Mixolydian mode. Hey, I think that's good, right? So those are the scale degrees, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 flat 7 1. The major scale being 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. So, you know, if you're doing like whole steps and half steps, it'd be whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. Yeah. And so if we're in D, those notes are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. Like that. Now, the way that the modes are generated, like I find that this, like the numbers, is maybe more useful to think about them, to remember which is which, but the way that they're generated, G, A, B, C, D, sorry, excuse me, E, F, G, hang on, I didn't leave myself enough room. G, R, E, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, what I've written here is a two octave G major, right? So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and then I wrote it again. So the major scale is this, G to G. The Mixolydian, if you take those same notes and go D to D, that's your Mixolydian scale, right? Mixolydian. Okay, so it's the same notes, you're just starting on a different scale degree. Same token, if you were to do the second scale degree, A to A, that is the Dorian. Right? So that is just how those sets of notes are generated. And if the D Mixolydian scale is generated from the notes in G major, that means that other chords in the key of G major should be available to us. Excuse me, I gotta close this thing. It's getting hot in here. So what are some other chords we can play? Now I'm not thinking of a specific tune at the moment, but the chords in the key of G are, of course, G, A minor, B minor, C, D, right? E minor, and then the F sharp diminished. Don't worry about that. And then G. So we could there could be a Mixolydian tune. Like sometimes I might try to approach the C via a B minor. You could approach the C via G. You could substitute the B minor for the D. So, you know, normally that would just be your normal like minor third substitution. So you could go I do sometimes throw in that A. That kind of thing. So the Blarney Pilgrim is the one that goes is that right? Am I thinking of the right tune? I'm gonna look in the comments, make sure I'm thinking of that tune. Is anyone am I thinking of the right tune? Anyone? Okay. I'm gonna look it up. This is embarrassing, but this is how we roll. This is how we roll here on the Backer Chat. Yes, that's it. Okay, so okay, so that tune. Right, so the way I hear it is that the first part is in D mix Solidian. I hear the second part, hear the second part as being in G, and then the third part goes back to D, is how I hear it. But, you know, that's how I play it. But you could hear it other ways. I'm pretty sure that there is a recording of it might be on that, like one of those Paul Brady records back in the day, but where they play it in it, they play it in G, like that. Whoops, G, like, because it's the same notes, right? I mean, you can certainly make a pretty solid argument for it on that one, and which is fine. Like, I mean, but you know what's not fine? What did you say? Half of them plays it in D, half of them plays it in G. Half of them plays the first chords as G, A minor, B minor, and C. Yeah, that I mean, I wouldn't love that all. Just I feel like that would be a nice variation maybe, but I wouldn't love that for like to say like this is how this tune goes. It seems a little just perhaps like a convenient chord progression. A word about chord progressions while we're at it. Just there are people. Some people approach this whole project by trying to learn specific patterns and assuming that if you get a few patterns, that chord patterns, I mean, like, an order of chords, a progression, that that you'll be covered. Like, you'll be able to use at least one of those in any given situation. And while, like, it's not that it's it's not like a lie, because I mean, yeah, there are, if you're playing in G, there's a lot of tunes that go, G, C, G, D, or G, G, C, D, that kind of thing. There are a lot, and you do that a lot. But there are, it sort of writes us an excuse note to not know the stuff as well as maybe we should. And it's better if we learn it better. If we dig in and know the tune, it's more fun. It's a great deal more enjoyable to sit in a session and recognize a tune and play it versus just sort of knowing what key it's in and being able to fake your way through it. That's a helpful skill, but it's not as good as actually knowing it, because it just feels, then you're comfortable, then you're not on edge. And of course, that doesn't even take into account the tunes that don't follow the rules or don't do what you want them to do, because there are plenty. And we have all had moments of just being completely I refer to it as getting bit in the butt when I'm playing along and I don't know this tune, and then there's this chord that, if something happens in the melody and I'm playing a chord that is clearly wrong, it is not the right chord, but I don't immediately know, I haven't quite figured out what is the right chord there in that situation. And the dreadful thing about it is that it's going to repeat in another, like, 6 bars, and you don't really have that much time to figure it out. And so then you try another one when that part comes around, and that's wrong too. And well, now I've got 2 B parts to figure it out. But it's that situation. It happens. It's happened to every backer on the planet. I guarantee it. Nobody knows everything, and it's nice to. I would rather spend more time learning specific tunes than just learning patterns. Make sense? Okay, I'm gonna. How do I choose the? Wait. Well, here we go. There's. I think I just answered the question that I just read here. How do you choose the chords you'll be playing? Depends on the tune, right? So if step 1 is knowing the key you're in, knowing the key of the melody, right? Because that, to a very large extent, dictates the chords that you'll be choosing from. Here, I'm gonna get my whiteboard out again, because I don't have to. If anyone can scroll backwards and screenshot things, right? So let's say we're in a major key, and I'll do this generically first, and then we can plug in some actual things. 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4, 5, out of room, 6 minor. Maybe I can just do that. 6 minor. So the basic chords in any major key are 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4, 5, and 6 minor. And then the 7 chord, like, we don't talk about Bruno. We'll not worry about that. So if we're in the key of G, which we seem to be a bit today, that would be, the 1 chord would be G. The 2 chord would be A minor. The 3 chord would be B minor. The 4 chord would be C. The 5 chord, D. The 6 chord, E minor. And then back to G. So the first thing, if there were a tune in the key of G, I would assume that I would be playing, choosing from those chords. And the first thing, so this comes up a lot. Like, how do you know what key something's in? Like, if you're in a session, or if you're just trying to figure out at home, even better. What I tell people is that, you know, you do have a kind of limited set of choices if you're playing Irish music, like G, D, A major, like G and D. I actually last week played in a session where we played for 3 hours and we only played in the keys of G major and D major. I swear to you, there was some D Mixolydian. There was not one minor tune. There was not one tune that was not in the key of G or D. It was amazing. It wasn't like on purpose. It's just how it turned out. But so you do get an awful lot of mileage out of those keys. So, you know, knowing that if it's in G, there's going to be a lot of G, and there's this idea that, like, you know, if the tune's going along and you're trying to figure out what key you're in, if you sort of quietly play one of your possible root notes, you know, could it be in G? You could just kind of quietly play a G. This is, you know, that kind of thing, so you're not disturbing anyone. And you're looking for the note that sounds right for most of the time, right? So it doesn't immediately clash. Like if now this is, I don't know if I can do this. I'll try and sing and play at the same time. So this, I'm going to try and sing you a tune in G. Okay, I'll just do that much. So if I am trying to find out the key to this, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's in A, and I'm playing you can hear that doesn't really fit, right? So then I think maybe it's in D, and I go sorry. And that one, like, it doesn't like set my teeth on edge or anything, but it's somehow a bit unsatisfying, which makes me think it might be like a false positive because of that whole D and G relationship. Then when you hear the real one, then it sounds nice. It sounds really good, right? Do that, like, that's a great thing to do with a record. Just like put on a recording and just kind of see if you can. Don't worry about like trying to figure out the whole thing. Just figure out what key it's in. It's a good ear training exercise. And then once you've got the key, my usual advice to people is sort of stay on the one chord till it tells you to leave. You know, you could stay on the one chord for most of that part, I think. That's to get sort of the bones of it, and then you can move around more, certainly. Like you can you know, snake all the way around and throw in different chords, and as long as you're within the key, like, you can probably make it. You know, if you handle it right, you can probably make any chord work at any given time, as long as you know, get to it and from it in a good way. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But but you know, if I know maybe that's a D chord there. If I wanted to do it a little more, add some more to it, I might sing G da da dee dee da 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 G da 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 dee da G da dee, different G, da 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 C da da D. Right? So it's the same. I'm just sort of adding. Find out the skeleton first. Find out the bare minimum, and then add to it. Then add more chords and more stuff until you like it, until it's done. Done. All right. Okay. I'm moving on because I want to get. Let's see. Relationship at the backer to the melody player. Well, you want to support the melody. That's sort of like I think that good backing can really elevate the whole musical experience. You will run into people who are of the opinion that, backing should, well, some people just think there shouldn't be any. And then some people think that it should be just as out of the way and unobtrusive as possible. And I think it should be part of the music. And I think it's okay to sometimes assert yourself a little as a backer. Throw in that weird chord, make people sit up and take notice. I think if you try to be too passive, like, oh, I don't want to mess up, I don't want anyone to hate me, I don't want to mess up, it's not as fun, and it doesn't maybe drive the bus. It doesn't serve the music as well as knowing what you're doing and then doing it, I guess. That being said, if there's a disagreement, we need to defer to the melody player, because if I get up and go have a beer, they can keep playing tunes. If they get up and go have a beer, unless I'm going to sing a song or something, there's no session. So it is, you have to be deferential. You can't like walk all over it, certainly. And you want to be, I want to be, when I play, I want to support the melody. I want to make it sound better. I want it to sound better than if I weren't sitting there. And so I want to lock in with the melody player as much as I can. I want to really follow the melody player's rhythm, their rhythmic feel. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it a heavy sort of rhythm, or is it a kind of flowy rhythm? Whatever's going on, I want to lock into that and follow that and play that way. I want to play that way too, and I want to suss out, like, is this the type of player who is going to appreciate me, throwing in jazz chords or something, like, or not? And or is this the sort of player who wants me to go or not, and then play accordingly? It makes sense. So yeah, it's a good relationship. We like a good relationship. And I'm just going through these in order here. In a medium-sized session, and there are more than one guitar player, how do you handle it? Great question. Depends on how well you know each other. If yesterday I happened to go out and there were three backers and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 melody players, which, on the surface is not maybe the ideal distribution, but all of the backers, we all know each other very well and have been playing together, in town for years and years, and so so in that case it's easy, because I know how my friend John plays, and I can fit in with him. And so we would, we some tunes we would fit in, some tunes one of us would sit out for a bit, or the other. It just depends. Like if it's a session, if it's a regular session, you need to figure something out. So that, because if regularly there are multiple backers showing up, you sort of need to have something in place to handle it. If it's like a one-time thing, like if this, the example is always like at a festival or a camp or something, where it's, this one-time thing that this group of people is going to be playing together, I say, don't worry about it. Like, it's just play away. Like, it's not really worth. I mean, if someone wants to have the discussion, like, hey, do you want to take turns or something? Great, yeah, take turns. Like, that's cool. But I kind of feel like it's more of an issue if you're going to have to be dealing with it every week. And then some strategies are put on a capo up high. Like one of you plays up high, and one of you plays down low. That's a good one. Or just flat out take turns playing. That's certainly an option that can be quite effective. But it's not necessarily a problem. But if it is a problem, then it needs to be addressed in some way, and cordially, of course, because it's supposed to be fun. All right, so next question. Sometimes a lead chord which introduces the next chord. Go from a D to a C and add a chord or note before the G, or G to a G. Yeah, absolutely. So I like to connect things. If I'm going from a G to a C, I will almost inevitably go play a G over B to the C. And G, then I use this a lot. D over F sharp going to G. Or up here. So there's two ways to do that. So the approaching a note by a half step, in other words, F sharp to G, like one fret motion, that's a really strong motion. Because if we're here and I play this, it really wants to resolve, right? So if you can use those half steps that are in the key, which would be the half step between 3 and 4 and the half step between 7 and 1, right? So if I play I'll play in D for a change here. So here's, I'm just going to say 1, 7, things like that. Okay, so here's 1, 6, 7, 1, 1, oops, 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 1. And here we go. 5, 6, 7, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 1. 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1. It smooths it out. It just makes the change from one thing to another a little bit smoother. The technical term voice leading, which comes from like a choir. Like if you've ever like sung in a choir or a hymn or anything, like if it's well written, you don't jump around a lot. It's because your voice doesn't like that. You don't like to go you like to go da da da, like something smoother. So voice leading is like trying to write things that are smooth. Now you can also throw in like, I don't know what to call it, chromatic voice leading, which is like not in the key. For example, if I'm in D and I want to go to a B minor, I could approach it or by this A sharp, which A sharp is not in the key of D, right? So I could go, that was a bad one. Right, you can kind of, and some people will do that by just taking the minor chord and sliding the whole thing up like that. I tend to use a diminished chord, diminished 7 chord, which is not that different. But all that kind of stuff just smooths out the changes, which is, I think, a desirable outcome. I believe I did maybe a video about passing chords that's in there somewhere. Let's see, what do we got here? The traditional music guitar players seem to move in a very fluid fashion. Oh, there's another passing chords. Yes, exactly what I just said. It's just a matter of connecting things. Like if I go, that's a big old jump. Whereas if I go, that's more chill. Sometimes you might want to go, you know, and sometimes you might not. Might just be a little more close in. So fast jigs. Okay, I got a right hand question. Let's do it. So the jig thing, which probably you all know, but I'll say it again. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down. Sometimes there is a speed limit on that. And how do you deal with that? So I'm going to give you 2 quick answers. They might not be quick. My answers are never quick. One is, here is a fantastic way to work on this. I mentioned at the top of this, working on the hands. This is a great example. If you, this works best with a metronome, which I do not have in this room, so I'm just going to go, you know, like click, 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 right? But if I go click, 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 okay, so I'm just setting this tempo, tick, tick, and then I go down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, tick. So going back and forth. When I practice right hand rhythm stuff, I always mute the strings, so I don't have to listen to anything and don't have to hold down a chord. If you're going to do it for a long time, just put a sock on it. But tick, 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 right? So that's all the same. So what's happening is you're giving your hand four beats, 4 strums to kind of rest after doing the down, up, down, down. And then there are 2 ways to increase. You can increase the speed. And then you can also increase the length of the interval. So you can go like, I was doing, you know, equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so you keep either increasing the speed at which you're doing it and or increasing the length you're doing it to build your stamina. But the key thing is when you get back to this, you relax your hand. You relax it. Because pretty much any technical problem that anyone ever has is because they're tight. You're gripping too tight and your arm gets tight and your shoulders get tight. That's always it. It's always tension somewhere. And so if you can train your hand to feel as relaxed when it's going fast as it is when it's going slow, that is the goal. That is my goal anyway. Dum, dum, da, dum. Now, what happens if it really is just too fast? Like, you know, I can't think of and it just starts to sound bad anyway. I guess what I would say, if you go to a down up, just make sure we just have to make sure that it still sounds like a jig. And so that means accenting that upstroke a little bit. Right? The trick is it's hitting the trebles first instead of hitting the basses first, so it sounds a little different. But it can work just fine. I play slides like that because slides tend to go too fast for me to, like the down up and down up. It was actually sort of how I learned that, like, oh, they're not just jigs. But if you think of a slide, there's no way I'm doing down up, down, down up, down, down up with that. I couldn't even say it that fast. Right? So that can go really fast when you need it to. It's a really great. It doesn't have the problem that down up does of like a sort of a speed limit, but it's just a matter of making sure that it still sounds like a jig and doesn't start to sound like. 1, 2, 3. Like if your arm sort of naturally wants to accent downstrokes because gravity and hitting bass strings. So if we are careful to not overdo the downstrokes, if I overdo the downstrokes, it sounds like a waltz. You know, bump, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, right? Hear the difference. It's just a different accent, and it happens on an upstroke. So it just have to make sure that is what's happening. Do I ever use augmented chords? No, I don't. Do I? Augmented chord. I really don't. I really don't. If I have to go to, if I'm using, like when I hit, if I'm going up a scale in chords, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I get to the 7, which would be diminished. Oh, you're talking about augmented. Well, I'll say this anyway, because which would be a diminished chord. I actually play I use that as a time to play a 5 chord with a 3 in the bass, with the 7. Well, the 3rd note of the 5 chord, which is actually the 7th note of the scale. Is that confusing or what? There. And an augmented chord is what is an augmented chord? That's that. Do I ever? I'm sure at some point, but it's definitely not a regular occurrence. If I did, it would just be like some. I don't know. Actually, I'll just say no on that one. Can I cover the rhythm for Little Beggar Man and Red Haired Boy? I don't know if I can, honestly. I don't. Are those? I think those are two. I don't know the name. Know the first one by name. Is it? I believe those are like reels that are very popular among like in the bluegrass world, right? In which case, I would probably just say that they're, probably just like reels. But let me think about that for a second. I'm gonna do my one other exercise that I mentioned. Since I did a right hand thing, I wanted to show a left hand thing. And so when learning a new chord, here is a great way to learn to change. Because the hardest thing about playing a fretted instrument is not playing a chord. It's changing chords, right? It's like I could, like I could put could put a monkey's fingers down like that and stay there all day. It's when you have to go to the next one that it gets tricky. And so this is such a good exercise. If, once again, metronome, let's say we're going from, I'll give you something juicy. How about if we're going from a C6 chord down to an A minor. I'll do it so it makes more sense. Okay. So here, I'll write them on my whiteboard. Got my whiteboard. So just a moment, please. And this is on the 8th fret. 8th fret. And that is a C chord, and that is open and open. And then we'll go. No one's going to be able to read this. And then we'll go down here, because my handwriting is terrible, to an A minor. Now, I am very, like, I don't bother with extensions. So there's a C chord going to an A minor chord. So the C chord's up on the 8th fret. If you need a nice C chord, there's one. And then it's going down to that A minor chord. Technically an A minor 9 chord, but who's counting? Okay, so there's no way I can hold this up and show you what I'm going to show you, so you'll just have to make your way. But the first thing we do is we find one of the chords. Make sure you've got that chord. Now this is a C chord, I said, but it has this D in it. Why does it have a D in it? Because I like it. Because I might be playing it in a Mixolydian tune. So we'll just do it. We'll just go with it. And then the A minor one is all on the 5th fret. It has, I get my first finger can play both of them, which is nice. So the first thing you want to notice is, are there any common fingers between the two? And the answer is yes. I can use my first finger. But here's the trick. You put on a metronome, and you're going to play one measure of C and one measure of A minor. But the most important thing is to make the change in time. So I'm going to play that C, 1, but as soon as I play it, I can start moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Move back up, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right? So, and if that's hard, you slow it down. You get it to, it does not matter how fast or slow you go with this, as long as you're there on the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? And then we add another strum. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then we add another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you do all 4. Right? So what you're doing is you're reducing the amount of time you have to make the shift. And in so doing, you learn to make that shift more quickly. Because the thing that can happen with beginning guitar players is we all did this. We learned a chord, and then you're like, hang on. Right. So if you work on reducing that amount of shifting time, that is a really great exercise. And you can do it. You can make variations of that, obviously, and do like more like a bigger chord group or something. I realized something that I completely forgot about, and that was to put up my Venmo link. Hey! So if you're enjoying this enough to throw money in the pot, my Venmo is Matt Heaton Music, or you can find a PayPal. Actually, I don't have the link, so I'm not going to put it up there, but I'm sure you could find it. Let's see, what else we got here. What is the chord progression in E minor? Right, so minor keys are essentially, there tends to be a 1 chord, and then much like in the Mixolydian, it's like a Mixolydian tune where you've got a minor 1 and then a major 7 below it. So, and this will actually, maybe this might be the last thing I cover, but this sort of dovetails. Someone had asked me ahead of time about on the bouzouki, how might you spice it up a little bit. So if I were doing, get that out of the way, that's ugly. If I were playing in a minor, you know, let's think of Cooley's E minor. So that really, that's just going D, E minor to D, back and forth, equal the how do you say the equal amounts, like 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars. So one thing that I really like to do in that situation is I change the bass note to something else in that, another note in that chord. So for example, E minor, the notes in E minor are E, G, and B. So I might go E for 1 bar, and then put a G in the bass. And then I could do the same thing on the D. D to F sharp. And then following that little voice leading thing we were talking about, maybe I would go E to G to F sharp because it's closer, and then the D. And a lot of people might, you know, on the bouzouki, you might do a capoed. But you can, that just makes it easier for your hand. You can do the same move. And you know, without getting too far into the weeds, but that that is one trick I use all the time. If I'm going from a minor 1 chord to a major 7 chord below it, I always, not always, but I often will use. I'll just change the third, or change the bass note of the chord that I'm playing. So go from like the, you know, the 1 in the bass to the 3 in the bass. It all of a sudden you've got a little line going instead of just 2 blocky chords. Always, you know, I like it whenever possible. I try to avoid blocky chord movements. So this is, you know, A minor to G. Or down the octave. That's just, I'm not changing any harmonies with that. I'm just trying to spice them up a little bit. I'll do the same trick on the guitar, just to since I feel like we are more guitar players here than one. If you want to do it kind of sparse, here I'm going back to E minor. So here's a nice E minor for you in standard. I'm going, I'll show you real. There's the G. Do it down here. You don't have a low D if you're in standard, so you can't do that. But, you know, A is in a D chord, or if we're in drop D. But just good to remember that if if the interesting part is the bass line, try to bring that out a little bit. I tend to, like I'm kind of playing the top strings more lightly. And you hear that I'm not playing, I'm letting that be long. Which I think separates the voices a bit, so it sounds like I've got I have a fake cello playing with me or something. If I'm able to do that correctly. All right, and the final question, I believe. Any tips for books or online courses on backing for Irish music? There's certainly stuff on this YouTube channel. In the Backers Corner is full of videos I've made that are mostly on specific topics. Shannon and I did make a book called In Harmony, which has its standard tunes played fairly slowly, but the trick that we did is we panned the guitar hard to one channel and the flute hard to the other. So if you take your balance knob and twist it all the way, you'll cut out one or the other instrument. So if you want to practice playing with just the melody or just the guitar, it's pretty easy to do that. There are, of course, a whole heck of a lot of other resources, and I'll be honest, I haven't done a huge survey, so I don't know what all I would recommend. But the thing I always do recommend is listen to a lot of stuff, and when I listen to stuff, if I listen to something, I'm like, ooh, I like that backing, I like that. Who is that? Oh, that's who that is. Huh, I'm gonna listen to more of their stuff. I'm gonna watch videos of that person playing, and I'm gonna try and steal their tricks, because that's really how we learn this stuff. I learned by sitting across the table from other guitar players and watching their hands like a little hawk, and learning, figuring stuff out that way, which I think is, I learned this chord from that, which is a D chord over an A, going to a G chord, and then there's your A chord, and then, which I believe, I know for sure exactly where I learned that. That was in Chicago many years ago. But anyway, that's not important. What is important is if we call this a success, maybe we'll do it again sometime. Let me know, and come back to this place in 2 weeks. May 9th for the final virtual guided session, when you can, the final of the season finale virtual guided session, where you can test drive all these ideas. I appreciate you so much for showing up. I wasn't sure if anyone would, and it might not have stopped me for talking for an hour, but it was definitely more enjoyable in this way. So thank you very much, and have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. Yeah. Oh, and if you have any other questions, you can find us on Facebook and wherever. So take care.